of you that are too young to know what in the world is going on, you're really missing something. It was great to see your faces. I mean, you all look 19. I'm not kidding you. It was so great. So hello, good morning. I'm Reverend Karyl, and I just want to say there are people that I have never seen before here today. Welcome. And people that I haven't seen in a long time. So welcome. And this is Super Bowl Sunday, and there's almost no chairs. So woohoo! Okay, yeah. We have a couple of people from our newcomer team that have the little envelope of things that tells you about our community. If you would like, hold up your hand after I describe a few things, and we'll give you one of these little envelopes full of information. In there is this blue card, and if you fill out this blue card, you can get this free little book, How to Speak Science of Mind. You just need to get it from one of these two at the end of the service and trade the card. You give us the card, you get the book. So we would like to warmly welcome you, whether you choose to take this information or not. Anybody who's here for the first time and would like one, just raise your hand. There you go. Here's a couple of people and one down the middle. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Welcome. I hope you feel right at home today. We love you and recognize your magnificence. So this is our theme for the whole year, 2017. And we are moving into a new set of values today, but I just want to say that we are all about values-based spiritual living, and you'll find out what that means as I go through the talk. So we don't have these little cards out today because we have other things in the back, but we have these little value cards for you. You have to come again. How nice. So the theme for February is this: diversity and inclusivity. So when we speak about God, or whatever word you use for that all-encompassing love and intelligence that creates and sustains the universe, we have this quandary: is it one thing or is it many things? And so today with this theme, and the theme is for all month of February, we know it's both. God is one and God is many. So these are my words. I like them. I mean, they came through me. They're God's words, but I like it. All that is distinct is included in the allness that is the same. You know, all the differences. And, you know, there's nobody that looks just like you here. I mean, we look similar, but nobody looks just like you anywhere. And so all of that distinctness is included in the allness that is God. So the first step of our affirmative prayer that we call spiritual mind treatment is about this. It's about oneness, allness, inclusivity. It's about wholeness. We talk about the body of God and that oneness that exists everywhere. And you know, we don't have a problem really with including things in this oneness, in this thing itself, as Ernest Holmes said, that we call God, until we try to include stuff that we don't like. You know? Have you noticed that? And so, of course, that's where I'm going to go today. I don't need to talk to you about including all the people you love. They're there. I need to talk to all of us, and I include myself, about those things and people and situations and circumstances that we don't love. Because the truth is that God includes it all. God is the pattern that connects. The altar today is done by our wonderful Gailya, and you need to come up and look at this because there are photographs that Michael Beckwith is with a Swami of some sort. Swami Kirananda. And then this is an Italian textbook that has a dance of all these different kinds of people on it. And so it's the idea that God is included in every single person and every single thing. So that means this is what came to mind for me, that God includes both political parties and all countries of the world. It includes my exes and your exes. It includes business partners that have done you wrong and anybody else that's done you wrong. And that's what we're about today. We're about taking everybody and including that in the allness. So this is how we do it this year, because we have values, and I'm going to talk about 3 values today, and then I'm going to ask you to do something with them. So the first value is perfection, and so we're going to talk about what that means. And then the next value is acceptance, and the next value today is integrity. So in your bulletin, we don't have the list of values anymore. That was all in January, but you can find a list of values, many lists of values on the internet. You just Google values, and there you got more than you could ever think about. But right here in your bulletin is a little thing where you can write the value that you are living this week. And that's what I encourage all of us to do, is take a value and simply highlight it in our awareness and live it. And so you choose it, you write it down, you post it up somewhere, and then you wait and see what happens. And then if you have a good story, you come and tell me about it. And Bodie has a good story today. Bodie, now. Run. Run, 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 run. Yeah. You going to use your mic there, or my mic here, or what are you going to do? Here, are you, good.
So quickly.
Yeah, right now.
Hi. So I decided I would take Reverend Karyl seriously for a change. Joke. I thought, I might as well learn something while I'm here, right? So I said, I'm going to take a value. I'm going to pick a value last week. And I picked fulfillment as my value. And I went and bought one of these beautiful posters that Jet made. They're really awesome. And I got these my tools in the backside here with all the little sticky things and the possible values. And I wrote it on the bottom one step. So I started my journey last week with fulfillment. And it was amazing, like when you sit with a word, it blossoms in you. It's like you plant the seed in your soul and it blossoms, and it helped me recognize all the places in my life where I feel fulfilled. And I feel really fulfilled in a lot of areas of my life, in my work, in my relationships, in my health, in the beauty of where I live. And as I lean deeper into these things, it grows. And sometimes I should speak for myself, I don't acknowledge my successes. I usually finish something and go right on to the next thing, without taking the time to, wow, that was 6 years of work and it really was great, Maybe I get a day off. So, but also what happens is it activates this deeper yearning to be fulfilled even more and let go of things that aren't working anymore. And that's the hard part for me, because I hang on to things very long time before I let go. So it seems to be part of the territory to let go. And so my next word this week is going to be courage. Woo-hoo. And let the adventure begin.
Yes.
I encourage you to pick a word and pick up this amazing picture from Jet. It's just so cool to have around. And this is our journey. At the bookstore. Yeah, at the bookstores they have these. So yeah, she's not going to pay one for each of you.
Thank you. So I want to start with that word perfection. In our studies, we talk about God being perfect, whole, and complete, and therefore each one of us being perfect, whole, and complete. And that we are blessed in the infinite variety of all that is perfect. But what do we do with something that we judge as less than perfect? And we try to hold both things at once, which is actually my title. My title is How Can Perfection Include Flaws? Then we have this gorgeous, gorgeous picture of the temple at Delphi in Greece. And I chose this because the first time I went to Greece, I was pretty young, and I was not too many years out of art appreciation class in college. And even when I saw these in pictures before I saw them in real life, I thought that the ruins in Greece were more beautiful as ruins than the models that showed that they were what they looked like when they were new, 3,000, 4,000 years ago. And so I saw many of you nod, because I think what happens is that the ruins themselves are so graceful, they're so powerful, they're so wise, they're so energetic, they contain so much of the history of thought, that what can be seen as a flaw instead makes it more magical to me, makes the whole environment more magical to me. And so I thought, if I can do this with a building, with a column, why can't I do this with people so much? And so before we move on with how I work with this, I want to give you this definition of perfection, which is lacking nothing, essential to the whole. The perfection implies integrity, that there is a whole thing there, that there is something that is not in pieces, and there's not something that is left out of it. And everything is necessary for that individualized aspect of God, which means that each one of us, is so complete and so perfect, even with our flaws, and you would not be the person you are without those things that you're still working on, because each one of us is a collection of skills that we have mastered and skills that we are working on, and probably some holes that we don't even know about yet. And that creates the individualized aspect of God that each one of us is in every single moment, and that has to be complete. So I want to tell you a couple of stories about perfection. And the first has to do with this rose. So you see, this is a very defended rose. You see, it's got lots and lots of thorns on it. So when I do a wedding, and maybe some of you have seen this in a wedding that I have done, where I give both people a rose, and I talk about the beauty of the rose and how perfect it is, and how each one of them is as perfect as this rose. And then I ask the couple to focus on the thorns, or the imperfection. There may be a little chewed place in a petal or something. And I ask them to see that the imperfection or the flaw doesn't mar the perfection of the rose. And they get that. And then I ask them if they notice that each other has any flaws. And usually there are some chuckles. And because of course they've noticed that the other one has flaws. They chose that one because mostly they like it. That one. Mostly they like that one. But you ask anybody, is there something that annoys you there? And they go, oh, yeah. So we recognize, and then of course the wholeness of a marriage is including those flaws in the love that is the foundation. So what happens is that with this story of the rose, that when we include the flaws of others in the perfection, what we don't like in others, we learn to include. And that is life. And it helps us and it helps them shift if we don't resist those flaws and point them out all the time. But then, of course, we have ourselves. So this is the next story about the broken pot. And we have the broken pot on the altar here. So as the story goes, there is this little monk who has to go and get water from the well every day, and then walk back to his little cottage with the water in the pots. And he has 2 pots on each end of the pole. And so he goes to the well and he gets 2 pots of water. But when he gets to his cottage, he only has 1 pot of water because one of the pots is cracked. And the pot, the cracked pot, feels very badly because he is not fulfilling, so he thinks, the purpose of the pot. Because the purpose of the pot is to carry the water so that the monk will have enough water until the next day. And so one day the pot speaks up and says, I am so sorry, and you are so gracious to still hold me and carry me every day. But the monk says, I'm going to turn around and I want you to look down the path. Down the path, one side of the path was filled with flowers and the other side was not. And the side of the path that was filled with flowers was the side that the pot leaked on. And the flowers were watered. And so the monk explained to the pot that if he did not have that crack, the beauty of the flowers would not be there because he would not be there to water the flowers. And so the pot learned to love himself. So, you know, we sang early on, how could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? And that is the realization that the pot had. And that's the realization that you can have today. Because when we include the flaws in ourselves, in our perfection, what we don't like in ourselves, we learn to include. Early Ram Dass said, it's perfect here, it's perfect where you're going, and the journey is also perfect. So when I got this far in the talk, I thought, you know, there are going to be some people there, and of course me, who think, well, isn't this so sweet? Isn't this just like church, you know, to look at all these beautiful things in life when all of this stuff is going on in the world? So I thought there might be a disturbing condition or person in a life or two here that we can't think about including in these pretty stories, because the condition is abhorrent to our spirit. And so what do? Because we want to be conscious beings. We don't want to live in fear and judgment and separation and all of that stuff. And what do we do when forgiveness is hard and acceptance is hard? So, you ready? This is the real work of acceptance and integrity when it's hard. Okay. First of all, I want to tell you that it does not do any good to rail against what you can't stand. It just magnifies it. In fact, I've been through 2 classes now of my wonderful Beyond Limits class, and we had a great conversation this last Thursday night about worry as a lifestyle. And some of the people, yeah, oh God, oh, you have the same parents. Yeah. Yeah. It was, a couple of people in the class had this experience that, that if you worry, that it sort of keeps those things at bay. You know, you're prepared. But it doesn't really work that way, because when we worry, we are actually negatively goal setting. And when we worry, we are actually affirming some deep down belief that there is a force for evil. And I am here to say that there is not a force for evil. Evil, the appearance of evil, disappears instantly when we do this one little thing that I'm going to tell you about. There is only a force for good and sustainability and support, and life would not have been on this planet this long if there were a force for evil and we had to fight about it all the time. I'm just going to read a little bit from A Simpler Way by Meg Wheatley, who is a biologist and an organizational theorist. And this is some look at this page. There are 4 colors on this page, but I'm just going to read to you the bullets. Everything is in a constant process of discovery and creating. Life uses messes to get to well-ordered solutions. I love that one. Life is intent on finding what works, not what's right. Life creates more possibilities as it engages with opportunities. Life is attracted to order. Everything participates in the creation and evolution of its neighbors. Now that to me sounds like a good system. So that means we can say, if we translate that biology into spirituality, we would say that we live in a universe of love. So the force is for love. There's no force for evil, there is a force for love. But this line here is a continuum. And it's our choice whether we have little or no love or a lot of love. If we're at little or no love, that's when it seems like there's a force for evil, especially if we stay there for very long. So on this end of the continuum here, the high love end, we have high regard. We're living in high regard. We're living and giving and receiving support and receiving and experiencing affection. We have sweetness, connection. We have wonder. We have well-being. We have forgiveness, easy forgiveness. And at the other extreme over here, we have fear, anger, and hate. Now, I want to remind you that this is a continuum of one value, of one quality, and that quality is love. And you can choose to be at the negative, or you can find yourself at the negative extreme and choose to stay there, because sometimes it just feels like it operates unbidden. And then what you can do is turn and face the other way. Ernest Holmes said, turn completely away from the condition. Now, it is not to negate the condition that is life-draining, but you are not good for changing the condition that is life-draining if you are there in it saying, oh, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. So what you do is you turn and face love, connection, support, sweetness, and you think of anything that brings these qualities into your experience. So let's say that you are distressed at the political situation. It's not that you have to love something about the political situation that you find disturbing, but think about your pet. Think about your child. Think about the beauty of this world. And it's actually triage. It's taking care of something that needs big spiritual work immediately. You turn from the negative condition and you bathe your consciousness in something that you love. This takes you out of generating more and more negativity and gives you a chance of looking at the situation entirely differently. So, I have achieved enlightenment and maintained hate for several individuals, said no one ever. We're not going to be, this is one of those lessons that you get now or you get later. You can't not learn it and achieve enlightenment or grow spiritually. I sometimes wish it were easier, but you know, we all chose to come here. And Earth's difficult. Earth is hard work. Hard work. Okay, I'm going to give you another example here. The real work of acceptance and integrity. And this one is the continuum of oneness. Oneness is the truth. Oneness is the way life is. Nothing is ever created that isn't created out of God. However, the creations look a bunch of different ways. They look like community and mutual caring and connection and peace and joy and the blessings of diversity and everybody, you know, like the hootenanny at the beginning of the service. That's what that looks like, okay? However, on the other continuum, on the other end of the continuum, there is separation, isolation, and division. Now, what I want to tell you is there is not a spiritual law that supports separation, isolation, and division, because everybody from the biological sciences through spirituality tells us that nothing could sustain itself there. Nothing. And so the principle is oneness, and you can experience a lot of oneness or a little bit of oneness. So if you find yourself at the end of the continuum that is separation, isolation, and division, then you seek and find the experience of oneness. And sometimes, like we did last week when we went through that lesson from Ernest Holmes, where, you know, you get yourself centered again, and then somebody comes along and tells you something that is negative, but boy, you have responded to that in the past, and you get sucked into that, and then you work hard to get back into the positive, and then somebody else comes. So Facebook, you know, Facebook, you always get a lesson from Facebook, right? So there is this great little video that I put up. And it was a video of two kitties sharing a bowl of milk. And somebody licked the bowl of milk and pushed it to the friend. And that little kitty licked it and pushed it to the friend. And that little kitty licked it and pushed it to the friend. And people were going, oh, that is the sweetest thing I've ever seen. Then somebody posted, you know what? That is a backwards video. The kitties are actually taking the bowl from each other. Of that for a while. I thought, you know, that guy's probably right. But you know what I responded? I said, you know, the guy that figured out how to reverse that video and post it was into sharing. You know? So you got to work this and not let it alone. So the whole point here is this. Only love and inclusion come from me. So sometimes you got to work at that. Sometimes you have to figure out how love is going to come from you and how inclusion is going to come from you. But because it is supported by the entire life of the universe, you can find it. So let's repeat this together. Only love and inclusion come from me. Let's do that again. Only love and inclusion come from me. Do you know how safe that makes this place feel? Here we have lovers of your soul. That's all that's here. Lovers of your soul. So before we go into the prayer, I want to review that these are the values that I've spoken about today. I've spoken about perfection. You are all perfect, whole, and complete, as am I. I've talked about acceptance and how accepting one another is the only way to shift and change and to create world peace. And the integrity of the system demands that we see life as a force for good. So I have also talked about inclusion, love, and harmony. So what I'd like you to do, of course, is to choose a value for this week. And you can do it any way you want it. You can get one of those wonderful, wonderful stairways. You can put it on Post-it notes everywhere you look. But what Bodhi said is correct. When you focus on a value, that's what shows up in your life. Everybody take a deep breath and take it in. And then I would like the practitioners to surround the room. And as the practitioners surround the room, I want each of you to feel that you are held in a container of love, and that the truth that has been spoken this morning is vibrating in this very space, and that your heart cannot keep it out. Your heart accepts it wholeheartedly, whether you understand it with your conscious mind or not. The truth has been spoken, and so there is something within you that is rising up and saying, this is the truth, may I live it. So, we're going to pray a little bit and sing a little bit. So I want you to bring to mind this. We're practicing looking at the continuum from the full end. Think of someone or something that is so easy to love. And then we sing to it. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. And now, bring to mind someone that you have trouble loving, that you have held outside your heart, that you have named the other, that you look into that person's face up until now, and boy, those flaws are all you can see. But now, you are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are part of me. You are the face of God. And now, I want you to remember the time, the most recent time, that you had a negative or harsh thought about yourself, that you didn't do something the way you should have, or that parental voice inside condemns you. And let that fall off your back like you take a sweater off and you sing to yourself. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. And lastly, I want you to think of something that you think maybe a neighbor sitting near you has a hard time loving. Because, my loved ones, we can work for each other and be the force for good in each other's lives. So what is something someone else you imagine might have a hard time loving, and hold that in your heart as we sing. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. And when we open our eyes at the end of this prayer, that is all we will see. Faces of God. And so it is.